Well, hello again, and thank you so much for joining me on Passionate Catholic. Now, while we're talking about the Rosary, I thought it would be really good if we discuss some of the benefits for a moment, because the recitation of the Holy Rosary is really a school of spirituality. Not only are they the prayers that we offer up to God and to Our Lady, but it's also the mental prayer whereby we raise our hearts and our minds up to God, and we imbue our soul, our spirit, our mind, our heart in the mysteries and the truths of the Catholic faith. The Holy Rosary brings about so many graces in our lives. It touches the heart of God, it touches the heart of the Blessed Virgin Mary, and it opens up heaven, whereby the graces flow down upon us. One of the greatest graces obtained through the recitation of the Holy Rosary is a gradual acquisition of a perfect knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. In other words, we begin to share in that knowledge, in that love, that understanding that Our Lady herself has of her divine Son, our Lord Jesus Christ. And that grows each day with each rosary. Also, we receive forgiveness for all of our past sins. Better stated, it alleviates the temporal punishment that we owe for those sins. Also, it brings about the graces of the conversion of sinners. It brings peace into our souls and into our homes. And also it brings peace to our loved ones. If you, like I, perhaps have someone or more than one person in your family who has fallen away from the faith, and for whom you are genuinely concerned and fearful for their eternal salvation, one of the very best things and one of the most efficacious things to do for their conversion and their salvation is to recite the Holy Rosary, live the Holy Rosary, and make sure you place them and their intentions, their conversion and their salvation in that rosary that you pray every day. Now, I'm sure that many of the people watching this come from what could be called Western civilization, so the United States, England, Australia, and many other countries that have a Western background. And unfortunately today, most of the Western world is influenced heavily by technology. Now I say unfortunately, why? Of course, it's a blessing to have technology, it's a great tool, it helps us in many ways. But for our spiritual lives, it can have a very unfortunate and even very harmful consequence, is that we get used to the speed, the pace at which everything happens, which is not the way God does things. It is not the way things happen in the spiritual life. So for example, these days, if your Amazon package takes more than 2-day delivery, we all get worried and we go on and we check the tracking numbers. Many of us are getting used to same-day delivery. We hesitate to use the postal service because it takes too long in some cases. We have gotten used to an immediacy. Everything needs to happen right away. If my internet isn't fast enough and my file is taking a little longer than I expect for it to download, oh my goodness, I have to upgrade. I have to get faster internet. Now, of course, I'm exaggerating slightly to make a point. It's what used to be called the vending machine mentality. We don't use a lot of vending machines anymore, but they're still around. And for those of us who are familiar with that, the whole idea is you put in your money, 2 quarters, $1, whatever it might be, you hit the button and boom, you get your candy bar or you get your soda right away. No delay, no patience required, no anticipation. Whereas God, in the realm of grace, works very differently. And this is so important that we remember because it's so essential to our spiritual lives. Patience. Things take time. I cannot expect to pray one rosary and all of a sudden that person I'm praying for converts, or the thing that I want to happen happens, or the vice that I'm struggling with, the defect that I'm trying to overcome, the virtue that I'm trying to obtain, all of a sudden it just happens. As we know, that's not the way. And it's over a period of time with continual effort and perseverance, day in and day out, one little step at a time, where through prayer, especially through the prayer and the practice of the Holy Rosary, that I gradually receive the graces that then help me to obtain and to practice that virtue. Or Our Lady gradually gives me the grace that helps me to overcome that vice or that defect or that failing. Or gradually peace settles into my home. That calm and joy starts to become the habitual atmosphere. But it doesn't happen overnight. Now, those are some of the personal benefits of the Rosary. But there's also a whole nother gamut of benefits, or of features, if you will, that reside within the realm of the power of the Most Holy Rosary. Historically, the devotion to the Holy Rosary has worked enormous miracles of conversion. I'd just like to mention one. The famous Battle of Lepanto on the 7th of October, 1571. To reduce a very, very long story into something that'll fit into this episode, the Muslim forces were threatening Christian Europe. The Suleiman and his commander Ali Pasha had come up with a brilliant strategy to invade Europe. Part of this invasion consisted of the Muslim fleet that was in the Mediterranean. Pope St. Pius V, who is known as the Pope of the Holy Rosary, for not only did he pray it himself and he spread the Holy Rosary, but also he's the one, through his decree of a papal bull in 1568, codified, or if you will, secured the format of the Holy Rosary, which, as we know, was given by Our Lady to St. Dominic and became the tradition in the Dominican order to have the 15 decades, the 3 groups of mysteries, joyful, sorrowful, and glorious, and the 5 decades of each. And that became secured by this papal bull of St. Pius V. And he encouraged all of Christendom, everyone, to pray the Holy Rosary. Well, this had tremendous benefits about 2.5 years later at the Battle of Lepanto. Now, Pope St. Pius V had very keen insight of what was happening in Europe and the threats upon the Catholic faith. So he, through vigorous action and prayer and diplomacy, brought together the Holy League, which was a combination of the Spanish, Venetian, and Papal fleets. Under the command of Don Juan of Austria, they set sail to the coast of Greece, where the Muslim fleet lay. The Christians were heavily outnumbered, approximately 280 Muslim ships to 240 Christian ships, which in a naval battle means you have a tremendous advantage. Before this battle actually occurred, St. Pius V asked everyone to pray the Holy Rosary. He himself prayed the Rosary. Every single one of the 80,000 sailors and soldiers in the Catholic fleet went to confession, went to Mass, received Holy Communion, and prayed the Holy Rosary the night before the battle. On the morning of the 7th of October, at about 10:30 in the morning, the battle lines were set. And as the fleets came toward each other, the wind that had been in favor of the Turkish fleet all of a sudden changed and turned in favor of the Christian fleet. And this helped them enormously. And as every naval battle, there were toings and froings and the cannonades and everything, until at one point, the flagships of both sides locked together, and several other ships from each side joined in this myriad of ships that formed a floating battlefield. And the soldiers fought and back and forth. Well, through this whole episode, one of the cannoneers on the Muslim side took aim at a crucifix that was tied to the mast of the flagship of Don Juan of Austria. and fired, hoping obviously to destroy the most sacred symbol of Christianity. Well, lo and behold, as the cannonball came directly toward our Lord's body on the crucifix, our Lord, or the corpus, actually moved, dodging the cannonball. And until today, in Spain, you can see the actual crucifix where the body of our Lord is at a very unusual angle from when the corpus dodged the cannonball. After the victory, many years later, the Christians found out from reading the Muslim chroniclers that they had seen a lady appear in the sky holding a child and a sword of light. And that this lady, who obviously was the Blessed Virgin Mary, was urging on the Catholic fleet and sending the angels to help them. Well, needless to say, this was very impressive. Well, as I've mentioned already, through the grace of God and through the power of the Holy Rosary and through the efforts, the valiant and heroic efforts of those Catholic sailors and soldiers, the Christians were victorious. They completely annihilated the Muslim fleet. All of their ships were destroyed except 12. And over 30,000 soldiers of Islam perished that day. On the Catholic side, a little over 7,000 soldiers and sailors were lost, and only 13 ships. This put a halt to the threat of the invasion of the Islamic forces into Europe, completely changing the course of history. And this is the point I think it's so good that we think about and meditate on. The Holy Rosary has changed the course of history, and it can change the course of history now. We look around us. We are not stuck in a naval battle, but we are in a spiritual battle, where the forces of evil, the death, the devil, the flesh, and the world are constantly trying to lose souls, to pull people away from the true faith. As the statistics go, so many young people are losing their faith and leaving the church. So many fallen away Catholics. So many Catholics inside the church who are still in the pews don't believe in the real presence of our Lord Jesus Christ. We have a battle to fight. This is spiritual warfare for your soul, for the souls of your loved ones, for my soul, for the soul of all Catholics, for the conversion of all sinners, so that we may all one day be together in our heavenly home, together with our Lord Jesus Christ and our beloved Blessed Mother, Mary. If you've enjoyed this story and would like to hear all the wonderful stories that we publish here at Passionate Catholic, click on the subscribe button below and don't miss out on any of the stories by the Catholic Storyteller at Passionate Catholic. If you're looking to take the next step, if you want to grow in your spiritual life, not just to know more, but to become inflamed and enkindled with greater love for our Lord Jesus Christ and for the Blessed Virgin Mary, visit us at passionatecatholic.net. Until next time, Jesus and Mary, get us there.